Let's expose one of the biggest and most shocking lies in beauty industry marketing. We've been told for decades that cellulite is a flaw on our bodies, that it's ugly and that it needs fixing. But here's an uncomfortable truth that no one in the beauty industry actually wants you to know, which is that cellulite isn't real. I mean, it exists, I suppose, of course, because you can see it on your thighs and your hips and your stomach, but it's not a disease or a defect or even a sign of poor health. It's simply the natural structure of human skin. So the dimples that we've been taught to despise are caused by perfectly normal connective tissue patterns that appear in around 9 out of 10 women. Yet through a century of clever marketing, this ordinary, harmless feature has been reframed as something shameful. And the word cellulite itself was actually invented as a marketing construct. It doesn't appear in medical literature as a condition because it isn't one. It was coined to sell us solutions to a problem that never existed. And that's the scam. The beauty industry took something natural, branded it as unacceptable, and then built a billion-dollar economy around fixing it. So today I want to use this podcast episode to shine a light on how the beauty industry has spent over a century manufacturing our insecurities and selling them back to us in jars and gels and treatments that promise transformation. I want to explore how cellulite became that billion-dollar invention and how we can reclaim our power by rejecting the idea that our bodies ever needed fixing in the first place. Hi, it's Lorraine Dallmeier, chartered environmentalist, biologist, and CEO of the award-winning online organic cosmetic formulation school, Formula Botanica. I host the Green Beauty Conversations podcast, which has had well over 1 million global downloads, and these are my green beauty opinions, where I challenge you to think differently about the beauty industry. If you love hearing my thoughts on green beauty, make sure you subscribe to this podcast so you never miss an episode. So let's go back in time and look at the history books. The term cellulite first appeared in a 19th century French medical dictionary, but it wasn't used in relation to women's bodies until glossy Parisian magazines in the 1920s began describing it as something unsightly. Now, fast forward a few decades, and by the 1960s, beauty editors were running what can only really be described as panic-fueled spreads about how you could cure cellulite. And ta-da! The modern cellulite industry was born. And we've all seen it, right? The images of women's thighs being dissected under harsh lighting, or spa owners promising miracle wraps, chemists hurrying off to quickly come up with a fix. In one fell swoop, half the world's population had been told that the natural texture of their skin was unacceptable. And it worked so well, because the cellulite myth has become one of the most profitable lies in beauty. And going back in history, we can see that every decade brought a new miracle ingredient or tool to solve cellulite. So seaweed and caffeine and retinol and collagen and lasers and radio frequency and lymphatic drainage, you name it. All of these so-called cures claiming to erase something that isn't meant to be erased. And now the results are there because women are policing their own legs for dimples that would never have bothered them until a magazine told them to look closer. So I just want to get one thing straight here. Cellulite is normal. Around 90% of women have it. It has nothing to do with weight or diet or health. It is simply how connective tissues interact with the fat cells beneath the skin. And that is a normal, natural part of human biology. Now for the really shocking bit, because more telling still is that there is no cream, no device, and no treatment that can so-called banish cellulite. Fascinatingly, in 2015, in the American Journal of Clinical Dermatology, they published a meta-review. So a meta-review is a scientific analysis that pulls together and compares data from multiple studies. So this particular meta-review analyzed 67, that's a lot, clinical studies on cellulite treatments, which were carried out over several decades. Now, of those, only 19 studies were randomized, placebo-controlled trials. And this is the gold standard in research. And even among those, the results were inconsistent and short-lived. So the authors of this meta-review in 2015, they examined everything from creams and caffeine gels and massage to acoustic wave therapy and laser and radio frequency devices. And they still concluded, and these are their words, that no clear evidence of good efficacy could be identified. So in other words, despite decades of research, thousands of participants, and millions in marketing, science has yet to find a single proven solution. But that hasn't stopped the beauty industry from inventing endless new ways to monetize our discomfort. And this is how the modern beauty industry works, which is why I love that I'm starting off 2026 with this message. Because the mainstream beauty industry creates a problem and then it sells you the cure. It profits from your self-doubt and it tells you that salvation lies in consumption, which is why it's so awesome when you can see right through it. And that's why I love what I do so much at Formula Botanica, because our education cuts straight through that noise. Because when people learn to formulate for themselves, they stop seeing their skin as a flaw to fix, and they start seeing it as something to understand and nurture and celebrate, hopefully, as well. Which is why there's another path if you want to take it. Because independent or indie beauty brands and anyone who formulates for themselves, those people are refusing to play this game, and you can too. Because when you make your own body oil or scrub, you stop chasing perfection and you start connecting with the reality of your own skin. So you choose ingredients for nourishment, not correction. And you decide what beauty means for you. How empowering does that sound? Now, I would never actually thought I'd say these words, but now I reflect on it, formulation actually is quite radical. Because if you formulate for yourself, you're effectively dismantling a century of manipulation and you're handing beauty back to the person it truly belongs to, you. Because cellulite doesn't need a cure. And there are many other issues like this in the beauty industry as well. I've just picked one today to really highlight the example of what their marketing does to us. So what does need curing is the beauty industry's obsession with inventing flaws that keep us buying their products. So this week, my challenge to you is this. The next time you see a bottle promising to smooth your silhouette, remember that that promise was never for your benefit. Cellulite was never the problem. The problem was that we believed the people giving us the message. So I want us all to step away from this idea that cellulite needs curing, and I want us to start creating for ourselves instead. Because when you learn to formulate, you stop outsourcing your confidence to an industry built on insecurity. So if you've been sitting on the fence about learning to formulate, make this the year you begin. Learn the science, learn the craft, reclaim your bathroom, your body, your power. Because every jar you make for yourself is one less sold to your self-doubt. 2026 can be the year that you stop buying products designed to fix you and start making products that celebrate you. Thanks for listening to my Green Beauty opinions. Remember to visit the Formula Botanica website at formulabotanica.com to try our free online formulation course. And if you haven't subscribed yet to the Green Beauty Conversations podcast, please do so now in your favorite podcast app. Leave me a 5-star review if you enjoy these discussions, and I'll be back with my next episode very soon.